Hello and welcome. This is Gist Nigeria. Coming up on the program, value added tax. Lagos and Rivers states pass law to implement local collection even as controversy deepens. Also, rising living costs. Many Nigerians groan as price of cooking gas skyrockets. And dismantling social barriers. Women break into South Africa's white-dominated fishing industry. Plus,
my name is Ogenerukeme Asagba. Check me out.
The community development advocate providing better access to quality education and healthcare. Many thanks for joining us here on Gist Nigeria from the BBC and Channels Television. And here on the program, we look at all the stories making the rounds on social media. I am Wale Fakile. Let's kick off with our top story. Now, it's safe to say many of us have heard about value-added tax for years. Now, we pay it whenever we consume certain products or offer certain services. What many of us may not be clear about is how government is or should share its proceeds for our common good. The recent ruling of the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt that the Rivers State government should collect value-added tax and not the federal government has triggered a controversy. Lagos State passed a law in this direction and the Federal Inland Revenue Service has appealed the judgment. But why the controversy? Gist Nigeria's Ajoke Ulotse tells us more.
On the night of August 2021, the Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt issued an order restraining the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, from collecting value-added tax, VAT, and personal income tax in Rivers State. Riding on the wings of this ruling, the Rivers State government enacted the tax law of 2021. Barely a month after, the same court dismissed an application by the FIRS to delay the execution of the order it issued that allows the Rivers State government to collect value-added tax. These rulings have sparked an age-long conversation about revenue generation, administration, and the sharing formula currently operational in Nigeria. The value-added tax has created more controversies than other taxes imposed by government. This consumption tax charged over value added to a product or service was only recently increased to 7.5% from 5%.
Basically, when someone produces a good or a service, by the time it is being sold to another party, there is some value add in it, and so you pay a tax on that.
Everybody pays value-added tax at one point or the other in the supply chain. But just how much do Nigerians know about what they are paying for and how it's been spent?
So that when I buy things at the supermarket, they used to add some money to it, which will be remitted to the government.
Before now, the Federal Inland Revenue Service was in charge of collection of value-added tax on all applicable goods and services.
In terms of disbursement, what we currently have is 15% of all VAT collected goes to the federal government, 50% goes to the states, while 35% goes to the local governments.
While this sharing formula has been in practice for more than 2 decades now, some states are moving to change the status quo.
What has happened is that some states are of the opinion that they are contributing so much to that VAT bucket and they are getting so little in return. And so they want to be able to take their own VAT that is generated within their states and use it to develop their own states.
It's not the first time controversies have surfaced around VAT collection. Tax lawyers say several court rulings have questioned the constitutionality of federal VAT.
Eco Hotels versus Attorney General of Lagos State, where Lagos State asked Eco Hotel to account for sales tax. But Eco Hotel had collected VAT. And he said, look, I cannot collect VAT and collect sales tax. Okay, fine. You know what? Let's go to the courts and find out who can collect this money from me. And again, there's the terminology in law which we call covering the field. So what happened in Eco Hotels was that the Supreme Court said, look, the VAT law had already covered the field because it had already taxed the items that the Lagos State sales tax wanted to tax. So you cannot, once you have a federal law that has covered the field as well on a particular issue, then you cannot create another state law. But just note this, I'll come back to it. The constitutionality of VAT itself was not considered.
Many Nigerians may wonder why these judgments continue to unsettle the Nigerian polity. Let me explain what the value-added tax means to the Nigerian economy. According to data from the National Bureau of Statistics, value-added tax alone accounted for 1.53 trillion naira of the 4.95 trillion naira generated by the federal government in 2020. That's more than 25% of the total money generated. But what is the bone of contention?
The Rivers State government is challenging VAT. FRS. Stop collecting VAT in my state.
VAT cannot work at subnational level. And there is no country in the world where VAT works at subnational level.
Rivers is not the only state discontent about the present revenue generation and sharing arrangements. Shortly after the September 6 Federal High Court ruling, the Lagos State House of Assembly passed a bill for a law to impose and charge VAT on certain goods and services in the states.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Those against nay. The ayes have it.
Less than 24 hours after it was passed, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu signed the VAT bill. The Lagos State government, through its Attorney General, is also seeking to be made a party and co-respondent in the appeal filed by the FIRS against the Rivers State government. But what does the Nigerian Constitution say about VAT and who should legally collect it?
As the Nigerian Constitution is written today, as we speak, there's no provision for a federal VAT.
What are the implications of changing the system of collection and disbursement currently in place?
We know that the federal government being responsible for the economy, obviously there will be a lot of distortions, and that will fall on the desk of the federal government. In terms of the states, so the only states, like if you've seen some of these viability reports, clearly it's a few states, like Lagos, Rivers, and a few other states that are the only states that will not go bankrupt if this is implemented.
That means that each state, will begin to mine its comparative advantage.
And what would these judgments mean for renewed calls for restructuring?
It is not surprising that the issue of value-added tax has raised again to the core the conversation between those who are federalists and those who are in favor of a unitary system. So for me, that basically underscores the point.
On the 10th of September, the Court of Appeal in Abuja ordered Rivers and Lagos State governments to stay action on their bids to collect value-added tax pending the resolution of the legal tussle. But how can Nigeria forge a tax policy that is fair to all states?
How are we going to address these key areas of input, output? Because if you don't address this, you are going to subject the taxpayer to unnecessary payment of taxes.
It is not so straightforward because it takes time to educate people. It takes time to build a manufacturing plant. So a sharp cut might be a shock for the whole system. So even though we know that it appears to be a step in the right direction and it will force people to start working and start thinking, but a sharp cut might also be a problem. We might not end up getting to the destination if we do it too quickly.
Experts believe that respecting the Constitution and its provisions is crucial in resolving the current VAT conundrum. Wherever the pendulum swings, all parties must ensure that the common man wins. Ajoke Hulotse, Gist Nigeria.
All right, we'll certainly keep an eye on this story and bring you updates as they unfold.